Hey, how you doing? The draft starts next Thursday night. The first round is next Thursday nights, and second and third Friday, and then the rest over the weekend. So I thought I would make a video to talk about what the Eagles' draft plans might be, and what positions and maybe what players they're going to target, and then also what are their plans in terms of possible trades, up or down in the draft, or if they're going to stay put at 15 and with their 2 second-round picks. First, I'll start with their position in the draft, which is they have the 15th overall pick in the first round, and also about if I think they're on straight up or down. First, there's something important to say that the Eagles are in a very advantageous position because they have a lot of picks. They have a pick in every round except the 7th, I believe, and they have multiple picks in a couple of rounds, which is important and really good. And then another key thing that they have is they have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds, 3 total picks in the first 2 rounds, and that's a really big advantage. To have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds for a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives you great flexibility. Well, really, number one is the obvious reason that you have more picks, so you could pick more guys to have the best team. But the thing that having 3 picks in the first round is really good. It gives you flexibility as a team. So you have the if there's a guy starts to fall that you really like, you have the ammo to go up and trade up and get the guy. And it also allows you wiggle room because then you can just you can trade. You can feel confident that if you trade down, you still have picks later on to kind of back up those picks. So in other words, you don't feel boxed in to stay where you are to make it a good draft. So you can feel confident that if we trade down, we still have tons of other picks, so that we could still make this a successful draft if we trade down. So that's the thing to start with, is that the Eagles are in a really advantageous position, like I said, because of not only all the picks they have throughout the draft, but having 3 in the first 2 rounds is really big. They have 2 seconds and the first, and that's I think really important. And it's a credit, by the way, to Eagles front office, GM Howie Roseman, Andy Reid, and the whole scouting and front office. So great job, guys. I'm a huge, as I've said in other videos, I'm a huge proponent and fan of stockpiling picks, trading down, adding more picks in the current draft, trading away picks in this draft to get 2 or 3 picks in the next draft, and keep doing that because it gives you, I use the phrase ammunition, like with the D'Amico Ryans thing. D'Amico Ryans became available. The Eagles had a pick to get him. That's kind of the philosophy in building up all these picks. When something comes up or a guy comes available that you need, you can go get him. Or if a guy starts to fall in the draft, you have the ammo in the back of the draft to trade up. And then you never know when there's going to be a really good draft. So if you are continually stockpiling picks, you'll have a lot of picks in a really good draft. So and then the most important thing with stockpiling picks is that the more picks you have, basic math, the better chance you have of drafting a good player. So I mean, that's basic. So just my philosophy is I'd rather have 3 picks later on than 1 pick really high, because I think that I can make at least 1 good pick out of those 3, and that if my 1 pick at the top is either a bust or he gets hurt or maybe he's just okay, then I only have 1 guy, but another scenario I have 3. So and that's something I love about the Eagles that they do, is that they're one of the few teams really in the NFL who really rely on the trade down and build up picks philosophy, and that's one of the things I love about the Eagles. Okay, now I'm finally going to get to, in this year's draft, what the philosophy will be. I think that the Eagles in this draft will stay at 15. and almost really in a lot of drafts, the Eagles make moves, whether trade down or trade up. They've in the past couple of years and in the last decade, if you just look at the whole the decade as a whole, they really and the majority of drafts have made a trade in the whole draft, but even in the first round. If you just look at the past couple of years, they traded up to get Macklin, and they traded up to get Brandon Graham, and going back 4 or 5 years ago, I forget, they traded down to get Cobb, which was the controversy with McNabb and stuff. But yeah, the Eagles do have a tendency to trade. But I have a hunch that in this draft they're going to stay at 15 because 15 is a pretty good value pick because it's right at the middle of the first round, and it's high enough where you can get a like a really good player or like a not top 5 guy, but top shelf first round guy, first round talent. So it's not like you're in the late 20s where if you want one of those top 15 guys, you have to trade up. The Eagles are in the top 15, so no matter what, they can get the top 15 talent. But it's late enough where I don't think that they'll get a ton of teams trying to trade up. So even if they want, so in other words, even if the Eagles wanted to trade down, which I think they might, and I would actually support if they did. I'll get to that in a second. But even if they wanted to trade down, they're not. I don't think they're gonna be overwhelmed with an offer. Like there will be teams that give them offers at 15, but I don't think they're gonna get just blown away by any team, say who picks 25, who's done all for them. You know, maybe the first this year, second this year, and the first next year. You don't get that kind of offer at 15. Maybe the Browns at 4, for example, will get those kind of offers, or even the Vikings at 3. A team would probably, like for this year, and teams usually trade that for a quarterback. So for this year, Luck and Robert Griffin will go 1 and 2, and then the third quarterback off the board will probably be Ryan Tannehill. So you'll see, depending on how the Vikings pick at 3, teams that need a quarterback and want Tannehill will be looking to draft to get to 4 to make sure that they can get Tannehill, and they'll have to over trade, I guess. I don't know what the term is. Overpay. You don't pay anything, but give more picks than the 4th pick is worth because you want to guarantee that you get that quarterback. Most people will probably say that those are only 3 first-round quarterbacks in this draft. There is a tendency for more quarterbacks to go in the first round than should go because quarterback's quarterback. So that's kind of the deal with 15. That's why I have a hunch that the Eagles will stay at 15 because I think that there will be guys at 15 that they'll want, and that they'll value those guys ahead of trading down and getting a couple seconds or a later first and maybe a second next year or something like that. Another reason that I don't think they'll trade down is because they already have the 2 seconds, like I said. So even if they pick at 15, then they can still look forward to the second round and have 2 picks in the second round. So there's not a pressing need to add picks later on. And that's what I talked about earlier with it gives you flexibility, stockpiling those picks. If they do trade down, I wouldn't be mad. I would be happy, actually. I love trading down. I think it's the best philosophy. It's just what I think is smart. So even in this draft where I said at 15 it's not necessarily advantageous to trade down, I would still support trading down. So Eagles front office, if Roshan is, go ahead, trade down, stockpile the picks. But if there are good guys at 15, frankly, if I was picking, I would probably pick the guys that I like at 15, or one of the guys that I like at 15, and I'll get to those guys in a second. That's what I would do, and then have the 2 picks in the second to add on. And last thing about trading, before I get to specific guys, um, the, uh, the other thing that the Eagles probably won't trade up is that the two of the trades that they've traded up for have been in the 15 range. So they've traded the couple of years where they picked in the late 20s or even early 20s. They traded up right into the 15 range. I should have written it down, but when they traded up to Brandon Graham, uh, forget, I think he was 17th overall. I want to say he was somewhere in the mid-teens. And same with Macklin. When they traded up to get Macklin, he was 16, I believe, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. And when they traded up to get Broderick Bunkley as well, that was back a couple years. But they did, when they traded up to get Bunkley, and they took him at 14, I want to say. So, we'll see. But there will be plenty of guys for them to take at 15. And I think that's what they'll do. Like I said, that's what I would do, and I think that's what they'll do. Take a guy that they need, and the best guy available at those needs at 15. Now we'll get to what positions I think they'll target in the early rounds, and then what specific guys at those positions that they could target in the first round. In terms of positions, I do think that they're most likely to take a defensive tackle in the first round now, since they traded for D'Amico Ryans. They somewhat shorter up linebacker, at least in the middle, so that I think they'll still target linebackers in the second and third, but they don't need to spend the first on a linebacker now. I still think that they might. I'll get to that. But I think that by trading for Ryans, I think that made defensive tackle the most pressing need. I do also, so I think defensive tackle is definitely the position to keep an eye on for now. It could change. And then also on defense, linebacker, like I said, I still think there's a couple of good linebackers who I think will be on the board at 15 that they might take a look at to really shore up the linebacker position even more. And I do think safety as well. They have spent a second-round pick over the past 2 years, Nate Allen and Jaquan Jarrett, on safety. But I'm not. Their safety play wasn't great this year. Let's be honest. So I think that it wouldn't shock me if they spent a first on a safety. So yeah, and then on offense, I don't think that unless there's a guy that they really love who slips, I don't think they'll draft a first-round offensive player. I think defense is where their needs are right now. So yeah, I don't see them taking a offensive player. I would, if they're not going to take a defensive tackle, linebacker, or safety, which I think they will, I then would expect them to take either a defensive end or corner, even more than a offensive player. So really, if I was ranking the position that they're likely to take in the first round, I would say defensive tackle, linebacker, safety. Actually, I would say defensive tackle, safety, linebacker, and then I would probably say defensive end, corner. So really, all the defensive positions first, and then when you switch to offense, probably running back first, and I'll get to that in a second. And then probably and then probably offensive lineman, which has increased, by the way, because of Peters going hurt. But they signed Demetrius Bell, so I don't think they'll take an offensive lineman in the first round 2 years in a row. And they're also solid at the other 4 positions, so I don't think they'll take a first-round offensive lineman. I don't think they'll take a first-round receiver unless there's a guy that they really love. I just don't see that. I don't think that they'll take a first-round quarterback. There's been some reports that they might. I don't see that. And then unless they trade down way late into the first round, I don't see them taking a tight end, and even if they did, they wouldn't take a tight end in the first round. I mean, that would just be shocking if they did that. Um, they somewhat of a need a tight end, but they're just probably not going to take one in the first round. Okay. Okay. Now the fun part, getting the specific guys that they can target in the first round. Okay. I'll kind of start. I'll just go from order of most likely to and guys that I like, and then really all these guys I like if I'm going to mention them in this video. So first at defensive tackle, I think the two guys that they're most likely to take, and also my favorite guys are Fletcher Cox from Mississippi State, and then Darrell Worthy from Michigan State. Both guys are really good, really consistent play in their college years. They can both stop the run. They can both pass rush, so they're versatile in that sense. They take up space. I think that they would be both great picks at 15 and could come in right away and start next to Colin Jenkins if Patterson wasn't ready. And even if Patterson was, they could defensive line. It's a constant rotation, so they would play. They would get plenty of snaps, and that's one of the good things about taking the defensive lineman in the first round is that even if you're already set at that position, they can still get into the rotation. So by taking a defensive lineman, you're kind of guaranteeing that they'll play. So those are the two guys, Fletcher Cox and Darrell Worthy. There's three other defensive tackles that will probably go in the first round and are pretty good, or actually really good. Dontari Poe from Memphis. He's kind of famous for his combine. He's about 350 pounds and ran the great 40. I like Poe, and I think there's a chance that they'll take him, but I don't think that they'll take him for a couple of reasons. Number one, he didn't have great production in college, and I think that's something that production in the sense of having consistent games and making tackles and just being a force on the defensive line. And I think that production is something that the Eagles value a lot. And if you just look at his production, I don't think it's on par with either Cox or Worthy. So I think that they'll be intrigued by Poe. Him in the wide 9 would look really good. But I don't think when it comes down to it that they'll take him. Could be wrong, but that's just my hunch. And then the two other defensive tackles are Michael Brockers from LSU and Devin Still from Penn State. It wouldn't shock me if the Eagles took either one of those guys. I'm not sure that those guys will be rated as guys top 15 talent. Maybe I think both of those guys, that Still and Brockers, have potential. Have the potential to be top 15 picks. Both could turn out to be really good, but both are somewhat inconsistent. Brockers, just questions if he can be an every down guy. Still was a little bit inconsistent at Penn State. He showed flashes of being unblockable, but there's other games where he wasn't as great. So, like I said, that's why I kind of like and why I think that they would look at Cox and Worthy. So we'll see. So those are the 5 defensive tackles. In terms of linebacker, my favorite guy from the start, and I still think that there's a good chance they'll take him, is Donta Hightower from Alabama. The good thing there's a couple of good things with Hightower. First of all, he's really good. He's got great size, great speed, about 6'4", 265. He runs great. He can stop the run. He can rush the passer. He can play the pass. Great player, team leader. Like I said, he went to Alabama, and D'Amico Ryans went to Alabama, so there'd be that. And then also, I think Hightower could play strong side linebacker, and I also think he could play in the middle if you need him to. Ryans will be the middle linebacker, but I think but Hightower could play stronger middle. And since the Eagles brought in Ryans, I think Hightower would be a great player for Ryans to kind of take under his wing and groom, and I think Hightower could blossom into a really good linebacker. So Hightower is a guy that I'm definitely keeping my eye on. Eagles front office, if you're watching this, I would love you to take Dante Hightower. So hopefully my dream comes true and they take Dante Hightower. So we'll see about that. So I think if they're going to take a linebacker at 15, I think it'll be Hightower. In terms of safety, which I said that they take if they, the best safety in this draft is Mark Barron from Alabama. He's a great player. He would be definitely an upgrade for the Eagles at safety. He's probably the only safety in this draft who can start year one. Some of the other guys might be able to, but Barron definitely could. I really like Barron. I watch a lot of Alabama games. Barron's a really good player. Physical, he can play, and he's great in coverage as well. He can cover tight ends. So Barron's a guy to keep an eye on. I think that he's definitely a possibility for the Eagles to take. So those are most of the guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then this isn't something that many people are talking about, but I actually think it's a real possibility for the Eagles to take, and that's Trent Richardson, running back from Alabama. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm an Alabama fan, so I do have my biases. I love Richardson, Hightower, Barron, and then also Kirkpatrick and Upshaw. But for Trent Richardson, I don't think that the Eagles could get him at 15. I think that there's a chance that Richardson could fall at 15. Not a very high chance, but there is that chance because I think running back in the NFL right now doesn't have great value, frankly. So I think that a lot of teams are hesitant to take a running back really early. But the thing with Richardson is that he has a chance to be really, really good. He is I shouldn't say there's a chance. He is really, really good. Watch some of his highlights. I mean, the guy's a monster. He's an awesome player. Alabama was so much fun to watch this year because their defense was amazing, and Richardson, every time he had the ball, I mean, it's watching him run. It's really fun. So I would love to see them get Richardson. I know we have Shady McCoy, but first of all, you can have two running backs. That's fine, and he'd be a great complement. He could not limit, but take away Shady's workload, so Shady would be better towards the end of the season, and you could also extend Shady's career. So they would kind of help each other out. Richardson's a great power back for short yardage and goal line situations, and he'd just be a great player to have on the team. He would just make the team a lot better. I love Trent Richardson. So, like I said, because of the diminished value that running backs have right now in the NFL, I do think there is a somewhat of a chance that he could fall to 15, but I don't see that happening, just to be honest, unfortunately. I think there's a good chance he'll go in the top 5, probably even top 10, and I'm not sure that the Eagles would trade up to get him. Maybe they would. I would support it because I just love Trent Richardson. So if they trade up and take Trent Richardson, I'd be all for it. And he's just a really intriguing player. He's just a fantastic running back. And he'll do anything the team asks for. He's that kind of player. So he'd be a great pick. So there you have my little Eagles draft preview. Those are all the scenarios I could see happening. Should be a fun draft. Every draft is fun, but this one for the Eagles is kind of even more special because of the year they had, and then next year is gonna be a big year, and you gotta lay the foundations of the team in the draft. So this will definitely be a big draft and a big year, and I cannot wait until next Thursday and all next weekend just to watch a draft and see the Eagles get and see what the future of the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be. So thanks for watching, and like I said, sometime in the next couple days, I'm going to post a full Eagles mock draft from rounds 1 to 7. So I hope you stay tuned for that. So thanks for watching. See you next time.